Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bubbs on Sports Podcast. Today is Friday, November 11th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Friday, November 11th here today. It is a football Friday as we get ready for the weekend full of college and the NFL obviously on Sunday. Last night you had the Panthers-Falcons game. Panthers get the win 25-15. One of those games where there just wasn't much action. It was raining in Carolina. A lot of just, two bad teams going at it, although the Falcons were, leading in the NFC South. But, that's because the NFC South is extremely weak. It's almost like what the NFC East used to be, where, below 500 teams would still be in the mix at the top of the division. So the Panthers get the win, 25-15. A good win for them. They get to 3-7 on the year. Firing Matt Rule. They have been a much more competitive team since they fired Matt Rule, but they still are, they still need a quarterback in the offseason. They're still going to need to address the head coaching position in the offseason. As for the Falcons, again, another poor performance, from Marcus Mariota, where Falcons are another team where you're going to have to go into the offseason. You're probably going to have to address the quarterback spot again after moving on from Matt Ryan, who, was absolutely dysfunctional in Indianapolis, who, is a complete train wreck right now with their whole coaching situation, their quarterback situation. So a lot going on around the NFL. We'll get into it all today. Rangers also got the win last night, 8-2, an 8-goal game for the New York Rangers. A much-needed bounce-back victory for a team that has really, really been struggling, especially defensively. They get the win against the Red Wings, so a good win for them. They'll be back in action tomorrow in Nashville against the Predators. Islanders get shut out last night against the Coyotes. They'll be back tomorrow as well against the Blue Jackets, so they'll look to bounce back. Rangers will look to continue to build on last night's win. Nets have another day off today. That's 2 in a row. They'll head out to Los Angeles today. They'll have a game tomorrow, game Sunday to open up their West Coast trip against the Clippers. Lakers, they'll play the Kings, Trailblazers. So West Coast trip begins for the Brooklyn Nets. And as for the Knicks, they'll have a game tonight against the Pistons at home, as they'll look to bounce back after getting embarrassed at Barclays Center on Wednesday night, where the Brooklyn Nets beat them 112-85, just absolutely dominated them. And I mentioned it yesterday when I talked about the game yesterday. Look, the Knicks are a team. They've got some pieces. They've got some talent. You can't deny that. They finally have a point guard for the first time in forever in Jalen Brunson, and he's done a very good job. But you question about the head coach. He's a defensive head coach, and the defense isn't good. And they're a team that has some offensive pieces, and they only scored 85 points. And they came out flat in that game. And there's been a lot of games this year where they've come out flat, and they've been the definition of average. They've literally been the definition of average this year. Like, the numbers show it. Like, exactly their record. The stats show it. They're literally average when you look at the New York Knicks. So they'll look to get back on track against the rebuilding Detroit Pistons tonight at the Garden for a little Friday night Knicks. Pistons, 3-9 team, look to bounce back there. All right, so topics for today's podcast. It will be a football Friday. We're going to get into the game picks, give you my game picks of all the NFL games going on. We'll get to the Giants, Texans as well. Jets obviously on a bye week, so no Jets this week. They'll be back in action next week in Foxborough against the Patriots. Looking for a win there for the first time since 2015. Will be a big, big game coming out of the bye. We'll also get to fantasy football, preview it, get you ready, lineups, all that good stuff. Get you ready for another week of fantasy football. And we'll, as always, finish things off with the New York Sports Update. Knicks tonight against the Pistons. Nets tomorrow against the Clippers. Kentucky also on tonight. A lot of college football as well to look forward to this weekend. So a lot coming up. Texas TCU, a big game this weekend in college football that will definitely have an effect on the college football playoff. So we shall see how it all plays out. All right, with all that being said, this is the Bubbs on Sports podcast, and let's get right into it. So last night I predicted the Falcons to win. They obviously took the loss, so I'm now 0-1 to start Week 10 on my game picks. I'm now 8-2 overall this season, predicting Thursday night football games. My record overall now is 83-53 with last night's loss, so I am now 30 games above 500 and looking for another week above 500, so we shall see. There's 14 games on this weekend, 4 teams on a bye week. Jets are one of those 4, and looking forward to a very, very exciting weekend here in the NFL. So let's get right into it. We got a 9:30 a.m. Eastern game on NFL Network. This will be in Munich. Buccaneers Seahawks. Bucks come into this game 4-5. Seahawks come into this game 6-3. The Bucks are 2.5-point favorites. Over/under set at 44.5 for this game. Bucks coming off the big win, the comeback win against LA at home last weekend. They head out, across the pond to Munich or wherever this is, Germany, I think it is. I don't even know. I don't even know where this game's being played. It's somewhere not in the United States. It's going to be an interesting game. You could really make the argument here. This is a must-win for the Buccaneers. You have a big win last week against a team like the Rams. You win this game, your schedule coming up, it's interesting because if you win, you got a bye week after this, and then you come out of the bye week and you get the Browns who are beatable and you get the Saints who are beatable. If you can win this game, get the 5-5 on the year, and you hit your bye week, which will be much needed for a Buccaneers team that has had a really wacky start to the year, you can get over 500 come out of the bye week. You really could. Because then if you beat the Saints, you beat the Browns, boom, you're 7-5, you're right back in the driver's seat. So this is a big, big game for Tampa Bay because then if you win this game, you could at least find a way to split the next two against Cleveland and against New Orleans and be and find a way to be 6-6. You lose this game, you almost have to win those two games because then the schedule the rest of the way gets a little rough. You have that kind of 3-game stretch against some really good teams. So it's going to be a very interesting game. It's Tom Brady. It's Geno Smith. The Seahawks have been playing very, very well. They got a very good run game. Geno Smith spreading the ball around. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, all these guys playing a role, obviously. Tyler Lockett's been a big, big player. I'm going to take the Seahawks here. They're the underdogs coming to this game, but I'm going to take Seattle. I really like what I've seen out of Seattle this season. They've been kind of that surprise team. The Buccaneers, I still haven't fully bought in after last week's win. It's also against a struggling Rams team. I'm going to take Geno Smith and the Seahawks. The magic continues for another week. Give me Seattle on the road. Technically, this is a road game for both. Technically, this is a home game for the Bucs. So I'll take Seattle. Plus 2.5. Give me the Seahawks. I think this is going to be it's going to be an interesting game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think Seattle's going to win. I'll take Seattle 24-17. They get the win. I'll take the under on the over/under 44.5, and I'll take Seattle plus 2.5. Next up here, we got Titans, Broncos. Titans 5-3, Broncos 3-5. Titans 3-point favorites. The Broncos, obviously the underdogs on the road. Over/under set at 38, 1 Eastern on CBS. Man, oh man, this is going to be a low-scoring affair. You have Malik Willis and the Tennessee Titans, who did not even have a receiver last week who had a catch. No receiver last week for the Tennessee Titans had a reception. They cannot pass. Their passing game's been awful. They're relying a lot on Derrick Henry, which I guess isn't a bad thing because they're 5-3. So relying on Derrick Henry, they found a way to get the 5-3 so far. But man, oh man, this is going to be one of these games where it is going to be a defensive game. This might be a game where 1 or 2 turnovers decides it. This is going to be a low-scoring game. This is a must-win, similar to the Buccaneers situation. This is a must-win for the Broncos. And for Tennessee, if you can win this game, you get the 6-3 on the year, you start to feel pretty good about yourself going into a matchup next week, which will be against the Packers, who have been embarrassing this year. So this is a big game for both teams. This is kind of a keep your season alive game for Denver. If you can get within one game of 500, you got a chance. But for Tennessee, they got to rely on Derrick Henry again. I'm going to take the Titans here. They're at home. And out of these two dreadful offenses, they're both so bad. I'm going to take Tennessee just because their run game's been dominant and they're at home. That's the only reason why. Other than that, this game's pretty much even in terms of defenses, in terms of receivers. Broncos probably have the more talent, but I'm going to take Tennessee because no team can really stop Derrick Henry right now. Kansas City couldn't even do it last week. The only reason Kansas City won last week is because Tennessee couldn't throw the ball, and Kansas City's got Patrick Mahomes, and they could work some magic late. So I'm going to take the Titans at home, 17-13, low-scoring game. I'll take the under on the over-under 38, and I think the Titans cover the 3. Next up, we got the Dolphins, Browns. Dolphins 6-3, Browns 3-5. Dolphins 3.5-point favorites. Over/under set at 49.5, 1 Eastern on CBS. I'm pulling for the Browns big time in this game because if the Bills lose and the Dolphins lose this week, the Jets are in first place, and the Jets obviously don't have a game this week. So we can enjoy first place for the entirety of next week before heading to play the New England Patriots. This is going to be an interesting game. I mean, the Dolphins have been playing great football. Tua's been playing great. He's been, I was wrong about Tua. I went into this year, I predicted the Dolphins, I think, to be a 6-win team. I was wrong. I didn't think Tua was the guy from what I saw in the first couple seasons. He's been great. Him and Tyreek Hill have had a very good connection. They're throwing the ball well. Their offense has been phenomenal. One of the better offenses in the league, really. They're going to be a threat. They really are. And they're well coached, too. As much as Mike McDaniel says some questionable things, they're well coached. The key to this game, though, is can the Dolphins stop Nick Chubb and stop that Browns rushing attack? That's going to be a big thing. I'm going to take the Dolphins here, and I'm going to take them because I just think they're the better team. And Tyreek Hill and Tua have been on the same page. They've been connecting, well through the air. Dolphins at home, they're just more talented. That's the bottom line. It's not much you got to go into this game. I think they're just the more talented football team when you really look at it. It is going to be interesting. If Nick Chubb has a big game, Browns could very well win this game. But I'm going to take Miami. Tua, Tyreek Hill continue to play at a high level. Give me the Dolphins with a home victory. 24-14 Dolphins win. I'll take the under on the over-under 49.5, and the Dolphins cover the 3.5. Next up, we got the Chiefs, Jaguars. Chiefs 6-2, Jaguars 3-6. Chiefs 9-point favorites. Over-under set at 51. Chiefs coming off the Sunday night win against the Titans. Jaguars coming off of a nice comeback win against the Raiders. Look, I'm taking Kansas City. They're at home. It's against the Jaguars. I'm taking Kansas City. I'm taking Patrick Mahomes. I know McCole Hardman was out the past 2 days of practice with an ab or something injury. I'm still taking the Chiefs, okay? They're just, again, the better team. They're at home. I understand Jacksonville beat the low-league Raiders last week, but Jacksonville is still a rebuilding team. They're still not yet ready to win. Trevor Lawrence needs to show more to finish out the year, or else you might go into the offseason with questions at quarterback in Jacksonville because Trevor Lawrence is making a lot of – everybody talks about Zach Wilson struggling a little, which that his criticism after the New England game was necessary, but he came back last week and played. And Zach Wilson has played better this year than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, he had an all right week last week, but he's still turning the ball over a lot. He's still making some of the same mistakes he made in his first year. I think that's a lot of it. I think a lot of it has to do with the organization. They didn't really surround him with great talent. They overpaid for Christian Kirk. They got Zay Jones. Those are not your high-end receivers, So I'm going to take Kansas City. They're at home. They're not losing to Jacksonville at home. I can almost guarantee that. Give me Kansas City 31-13. I'll take the under on the over-under 51, and I think Kansas City covers the 9. Next up, an interesting game. Lions coming off a big win against the Packers, and the Bears have been playing much better. Despite the loss last week, the Bears have been playing a lot better football. They've done a lot of things to help Justin Fields work in this offense. An interesting game in Chicago. Bears 3-6, Lions 2-6. Bears a slight 2.5-point favorite. Over-under set at 48.5, 1 Eastern on Fox. This is an interesting game. This is one of the more interesting games of the weekend because you have a Lions team that we all know very easily could be 6-2 right now because they blow games and their defense stinks. But they're coming off a win against Green Bay, and they just beat Aaron Rodgers, and they knocked him around 3 interceptions against Rodgers. And then the Bears, who competed with one of the better teams in the AFC in the Miami Dolphins, and Justin Fields has been playing on another level over the past couple weeks because they've adjusted some things in the offense, and Justin Fields has been playing much better. I'm going to take Chicago, and I'll tell you why. The Bears are a completely different team with Justin Fields playing the way he is right now. They are. They're utilizing his legs. They're utilizing his strengths in his passing game to his advantage. They've adjusted some things within the offense, and it has really benefited Justin Fields. Again, let's look at the quarterback matchup here. Jared Goff, Justin Fields. Who's better? Justin Fields, Bears at home. I understand they're coming off of a loss, but they've just competed against the Miami Dolphins. They put up 32 points. This Bears team couldn't score earlier in the year. Now, it's their defense that's hurting them in some of these games. I'm going to take Chicago, and I'm going to take them at home, and I think the home crowd is going to be behind them. It's an in-division matchup. I understand it's 3-6 and 2-6. But, the fan base, I think, is excited to at least see Justin Fields making strides. I'm going to take the Bears at home, 27-20, Bears win. I'll take the under on the over-under 40.5, and I think the Bears get the win. Touchdown late wins it for the Chicago Bears. They cover the 2.5. Next up, we got the Saints and the Steelers. Saints 3-6, Steelers 2-6. Saints 1.5-point favorites, 1 Eastern on Fox. Over/under set at 40 for this game. I mean, man, oh man. I mean, this is at the beginning of the year. If you look at these two teams, just on paper, and you say Saints Steelers, you think this is a good game, but no, this is a 3-6 Saints team, and this is a 2-6 Steelers team. This is no longer the Big Ben led Steelers and the Drew Brees led Saints. Andy Dalton goes into Heinz Field, or it's not even named Heinz Field anymore, but I don't care. We're all, everyone's still calling it Heinz Fields. Goes into Pittsburgh against Kenny Pickett and the Steelers. This is another game where I don't know how much offense they're going to see. This is two teams with quarterback questions. I mean, even though Kenny Pickett's in his rookie year, he'll come back next season, obviously. But as for the Saints, who's their quarterback next year? A lot of these teams, I think, a lot of these teams on here, they're gonna have to look. There's a lot of quarterback needy teams next season. I mean, you could go up and down the list. I mean, the Titans could very well be looking for a quarterback. Depending on what happens with Tampa, they might be looking for a quarterback. Browns, I mean, I know you get Watson back, but who even knows there? A team like the Lions are going to be looking for a quarterback. Saints are going to be looking for a quarterback. Titans, I mean, if they continue to lose, they might be looking for a quarterback at the end of this year. I mean, man, oh man. The Raiders might be. Colts need a quarterback. I mean, there is a lot of quarterback. Packers, depending on what happens with Rodgers, they might be looking at a quarterback. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Rodgers, the way Rodgers is, if he just, walks away from the garbage and lets the Packers light up in flames. I mean, they already are. Commanders, they might need a quarterback. I mean, you look throughout the NFL, there is a lot of teams that are in need right now. You look at it and you say, okay, they're in need of a quarterback. Now, there's a couple teams that might not be. If Taylor Heineke still plays like he's playing, Commanders might just roll with him the rest of the year and next season. Rodgers might come back next year. Brady might come back. So that's like 3 teams right there that might not need him. But there is a chance that there is a lot of teams that are going to go into this offseason in need of quarterbacks. And this is one of these games, Saints-Steelers, where Saints, you're not probably rolling with Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton next year. Steelers, you'll probably roll with Kenny Pickett, but, you haven't seen a ton out of him either. So, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. This is an interesting game. Steelers obviously at home. I'm going to take the Saints. I just, the Steelers are just struggling. I mean, they're just not, they're not playing good football. This is this is not a Mike Tomlin team where, usually Mike Tomlin's teams are always at least competitive. They haven't been competitive. Kenny Pickett's been struggling. Saints D against a rookie quarterback. I'm going to take the Saints here. I think they're also just slightly better. I think, just in terms of their overall, not even just talent, just in terms of just their overall performances. They've just been the better team this season. They've been the more competitive team this season rather than Steelers. So I'm going to take New Orleans on the road. Low-scoring affair, 20-14. New Orleans wins. I'll take the under on the over-under 40, and I think the Saints cover the 1.5. We'll get to the Giants-Texans in a little bit. Final 1 o'clock game here, Bills-Vikings. Bills 6-2, Vikings 7-1. Bills 3.5-point favorites, 1 Eastern on Fox, over/under set at 43. I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna create 2 picks. Okay. Josh Allen hasn't practiced Wednesday or Thursday. Today's obviously Friday. We'll see if he practices. Who knows? I mean, you hear all these different people all around the league say, oh, it could be more severe than what people think. There's been some rumblings of, oh, would it be something that involves Tommy John? I don't know if I buy into all that stuff. Everybody always likes to try to make everything drama-filled. But I'm going to make 2 picks for this game. And I sometimes do this. This might be one of the first times I've done this all year. If Josh Allen plays, I'm taking the Bills. Because we haven't heard yet if he's playing or if he's not playing. If Josh Allen plays, I'm taking the Bills. If Josh Allen doesn't play and it's Case Keenum and the Bills, I'm going to take the Vikings. I could still even make the argument that even if Josh Allen plays, the Vikings still are going to win because you don't know how well Josh Allen's elbow is going to be. Is it really going to be something is he going to be able to throw the ball downfield? How much is it going to affect him? The one question I have about Josh Allen's elbow is the play that hit, and I'm not saying that this isn't as bad or a bad injury, but it was Bryce Huff with the strip sack at the Jets game, right? And the next play, Josh Allen throws it 60 yards downfield. It must have been adrenaline, or if something happened with the elbow on that 60-yard play. everybody's saying it's the Bryce Huff strip sack, which probably is the case. But he did throw the ball the next play, 4th down and 21. He threw it like 50 yards downfield to Gabe Davis. And it was obviously broken up by Sauce. So you wonder if it was on that play or what, if it was just adrenaline, what play it was on. He had a brace on it yesterday or had like a sleeve on it. He's missed 2 days at practice. I would probably put money on it that he doesn't play. How long is he out? I don't know. This has kind of been something the Bills have kind of kept this under wraps. I think, they haven't, let out much about the injury other than it's something involving, I think it's the UCL or whatever. But I'm going to take the Bills if Josh Allen, even if I'm going to take the Vikings. Just give me the Vikings on the road. Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. The team's been playing great. Kirk Cousins out 1 o'clock games is amazing. If this was an 8 o'clock game, I'd take the Bills because Kirk Cousins can't play in primetime. Vikings are a good team. They're 7-1. They're roaring. And not many teams have been able to stop them this year. So I'm going to take Minnesota, even if Josh Allen plays because his elbow is banged up. Give me the Vikings. I'll take them 28-24. Vikings win. Plus 3.5 for the Vikings over on the over-under 43. Give me the Vikings on the road. Head into Buffalo, get their 8th win of the season. Next up, 4 o'clock game, 4:05 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Raiders-Colts. This is another game that really nobody's going to want to watch. Two bad teams. Raiders are banged up with every facet possible. Hunter Renfrow placed on IR. Darren Waller placed on IR. And I saw a stat the other day. Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, they've played like a combined 43 snaps together this year. So their big three, in a way, in the passing game for Las Vegas has been absolutely abysmal in terms of they just haven't been out there on the field together. They've all been hurt. Darren Waller's been out forever. Now they finally placed him on IR. Hunter Renfro's been, in and out. Place him on the IR. So this is a banged-up Raiders team. It's interesting because I don't know what to expect from the Colts. They obviously hired Jeff Saturday, who has no coaching experience. He used to play in the NFL. He's been to Super Bowls. He's been in the locker room. He was an analyst for the Colts. I don't know what to expect in this game. I really don't. Do you take the Raiders at home or do you go with the Colts and Jeff Saturday? I don't know. The Colts, this thing could easily go up in flames. It really can. Because Jeff Saturday's never coached before. He's never coached. This is his first coaching experience. He was some analyst. So there's a big difference from being a player and an analyst to having to, control 53 guys in a locker room and, build a culture. So this is interesting. Two bad teams, two offenses that just stink. The Ellinger's not any good with the Colts, the quarterback. Raiders have, everybody's injured on the Raiders. Josh McDaniel really hasn't done a good job. Jeff Saturday, who even knows what he's going to do? This is a really tough game to pick because there's so many things that you just don't know. I'm going to take the Raiders, and I'm going to take them for one reason. Two reasons, actually. Number one, I just can't pick the Colts yet with Jeff Saturday. Until Jeff Saturday proves that he can be a competent coach, I can't do it, and the Raiders are at home. So give me the Raiders. Devontae Adams, Derek Carr, that's still a connection, but everybody else is hurt. Give me the Raiders at home. I'll take them 23-20. I don't think they cover the 4.5. I think this is a relatively close game. Low-scoring game. I'll take the under on the over-under, or over on the over-under of 40.5, and then the Raiders win, but they do not cover, but Raiders get the win. All right, 3 games left before we get to the Giants-Texans. Rams, Cardinals. Rams 3-5, Cardinals 3-6. Rams 1.5-point favorites. The over/under set at 40.5. Rams are an embarrassment this year. You talk about a Super Bowl hangover. That is the LA Rams. We were all bashing the Bengals earlier in the year for their struggles. Look, the Bengals have turned it around, and they crushed the Panthers last week, and they did it without Jamar Chase, and they're finding ways to win without their top receiver. Bengals are getting the job done. Rams are completely hungover on the Super Bowl. You blow last week's game with a late comeback by Tom Brady, as I mentioned earlier. Matt Stafford's not playing anywhere close to the level he was playing last season. I like the Cardinals in this game. I really do. I know they've been struggling. I get all that. I know that they've been, they're 3-6 and they've lost 4 of their last 5 games, and they've lost a lot of these games. A lot of these games have been close. I'm going to take the Cardinals, though. Look, Cardinals are a different team when they're at home or on the road. I mean, they really are. They are just at times they're just a different team. Two of their out of the 3 games they've won, 2 of them were on the road this season. One of them was at home. So I'm going to take the Cardinals. They're on the road. This isn't really a pick because the Cardinals are good. It's because the Rams are that bad. That's my opinion on this. And again, sometimes those losses can just be so deflating for a team where the Rams had that game, and they let Tom Brady turn into vintage Tom Brady, and they blow it. That's unacceptable. Give me the Cardinals on the road. 24-21, Cardinals win. Cardinals plus 1.5 get the win. I'll take the over on the over-under 40.5. Cardinals get the victory on the road. Cowboys, Packers. Cowboys 6-2. Packers 3-6. Cowboys 4.5-point favorites. The over/under set at this game 42.5. 4:25 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Packers have been terrible. You know, Aaron Rodgers. There's kind of a rift in the locker room. Rodgers blaming his receivers, not wanting to take any blame. He's just been deflecting it. Receivers haven't been playing well. It seems like the receivers now are kind of clapping back at Rodgers. It's an ugly situation in Green Bay, and I don't know how it's going to end, but the Packers need to find a way to win at some point. They need to, because you're 3-6. The Packers, people, let me tell you, everybody forgets this. The Packers were 3-1 to start the season. They're in a 5-game losing streak. They're on an absolute skid right now. So they've shown no signs of life. They just got crushed. They lost to the Lions, where they couldn't move the ball against one of the league worst defenses. Rodgers threw 3 interceptions. Cowboys have one of the best defenses in the league. They probably have the defensive front runner for Defensive Player of the Year in Micah Parsons. I mean, Rodgers is going to be, this is going to be terrible. I'm going to take the Cowboys, and I'm going to take the Cowboys big time at home. Their defense is going to be all over Rodgers. It's going to be all over these receivers. If Rodgers throws 3 picks against the Lions, double that. That's like 6 picks against the Cowboys. I'm not saying he's going to throw 6 picks, but this has been an ugly, ugly season for Green Bay and Rodgers. Give me the Cowboys big time at home. 31-10. Cowboys win. Absolutely shut down Rodgers, a team that could only score 9 points last week against Detroit. Under on the over-under 42.5. Cowboys cover the 4.5 by a whole lot, 31-10. All right, final game, closing it out, Sunday Night Football. Niners, Chargers. Niners 4-4, Chargers 5-3. Niners 7-point favorites. The over/under set at 45.5. Look, Chargers are banged up. I mean, there's every facet you could think of. They're missing Keenan Allen, which is a huge, huge injury. They've been banged up all year long. Mike Williams was out last week. Obviously, he's been dealing with injuries. This Chargers got talent. This Chargers team's got talent, but when you're missing your top players, it's tough. And the Niners with Christian McCaffrey, they get Deebo Samuel back this week. They're coming off of a bye week, so they're only getting healthier. I look at this game as Niners are getting healthier, and the Chargers are just getting more, hurt in a way with their injuries. I mean, Mike Williams, been hurt. Keenan Allen last week was supposed to come back. He got hurt. He re-hurt his hamstring. People, Keenan Allen, he's played 2 games this year. 2 games. It just shows you, everybody crushes Herbert this year. He's got them at 5-3, and his best receiver has played 2 games this year. I mean, they've done a good job. I mean, they're 5-3. They've done a well enough job for the situation they've been in. They haven't been playing well, but a lot of it's because they're without their top players. But they're still 5-3. They're finding a way at least to overcome a little bit of it. I'm going to take the Niners though. They're at home. Niners seem to always win on Sunday night primetime. Christian McCaffrey, they get Deebo Samuel back, well rested off of a bye week. A lot of things to like about this Niner team. Give me the Niners at home. 27-21, Niners win. I don't think they cover the 7. 27-21. I guess I got them not covering the 7, but I'll take the Niners over on the over-under 45.5. Niners get the win at home, but do not cover. All right, so let me just go through the picks one more time. I got the Buccaneers winning, Titans winning, Seahawks winning, Titans winning, Dolphins winning, Chiefs winning, Bears winning, Saints winning, Vikings winning, Raiders winning, Cardinals winning, Cowboys winning, and the 49ers winning. And obviously we'll preview Eagles, Commanders on Monday. All right, so now we close things out. Jets on a bye week. Giants, the only New York football team other than the Bills obviously playing this week. Giants, Texans, Giants 6-2, Texans 1-6-1. 4.5-point favorites are the Blue Men, the G-Men, I should say, and the over-under set at 41, 1 Eastern on CBS. Giants team coming off of a bye week, well-rested. This is a Texans team that's just been embarrassing. Look, the Giants, they should win this game. I mean, this is have to be. I'm taking the Giants in this game. This has to be a win. I mean, this is such a big game for the Giants coming out of the bye week, where you lost the game that you probably should have won in Seattle if it wasn't ever for Richie James, muffing all those kicks. This is a big game for the Giants, and I'll tell you why. You look at the Giants' schedule here. These are games they got to win. They get 2 games here, Houston and Detroit. They're home for both of these games. These are games you have to win if you're the New York Giants. Have to. Because after this, you play the Cowboys on the road. That's a Thanksgiving game, and that's a short week too. So if you lose to Detroit, find a way to mess that up. You can, and again, you're going to learn a lot about this coaching staff too, because, I mean, we already know Brian Daboll's a good coach, but you play Houston this week, then you get Detroit next week. That's easily a game where the Giants overlook because they're getting ready for the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That's easily. So they got to make sure they stay focused, because these 2 games, Houston and Detroit, are so big. On paper, it seems like these are 2 meaningless games, but these are big. You get to 8-2 going into Dallas. I mean, that's massive. Massive. And the Giants, tons of their games left are against the division. As a matter of fact, after the Texans and Lions, all of their remaining games will be against the division except 2. And that's the Vikings and that's the Colts. They still got to play the Eagles twice. They still got to play the Cowboys on the road. And they got to play Washington twice. The division, this second half, tons of games against the division. Tons. So games like this, Houston, Detroit, are big. Because again, let's just say you split these games. Okay. You're what, 6, 7-3. That Cowboys game, let's say you lose. All right, you're 7-4. Commanders, you win. You lose Eagles. You're what, 8-5 then, 8-6-ish. Commanders, maybe you win. Texans or Vikings lose. Colts win. Eagles lose. Probably finish what, 11-6 maybe. Now, if you win both of these games, you get an 8-2, and you beat the Cowboys and you're 9-2. Man, you're riding high. And now all of a sudden, division's wide open, especially if you can find a way to defeat the Eagles. So these games are big. You don't want to. The last thing you want is to lose these 2 games, blow these 2 games, get caught looking ahead to Dallas, be at 6-4, go into Dallas, and in a way, almost have that as a must win, because if you lose that game, you're 6-5. Well, next week now you gotta win, or because then you play the Eagles. So 2 games at home against a 1-win Texans team and a 2-win Lions team. I mean, these have wins written all over it. Gotta win these games. You got to. And you're coming out of bye week too. You're well rested. Well rested. Now I know, obviously the Texans, had a Thursday night game, so they're pretty well rested too. But the Texans got nobody other than Dameon Pierce. Brandon Cooks is the stronghold. Davis Mills isn't any good. Their defense really isn't that good. The Texans are bad. And next week against the Lions, Jared Goff's their defense stinks, and that's the Lions. I mean, you have double the amount of wins that the Texans and the Lions do. Win these games. So I'm going to take the Giants. 56% of people think the Giants will win this game. I think this is going to be a blowout. I just think it is. And I know the Giants have played a lot of their games close this season. The Houston Texans are bad. They're bad. They're not good. Period, end of sentence. That's just how it is. So give me the Giants at home, coming off a bye week. I'll take the Giants 24-13. I'll take the over on the over-under 41, and I think the Giants cover the 4.5. Giants get the win coming out of the bye week. So take the Giants. Brian Daboll and Joe Shane get to 7-2 on the year and await the Lions next week. And then after that, if the Giants go into that game against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving 8-2, man, oh man, who had that early in the year? Who had that on their bingo card earlier in the season? I mean, Giants. We were all talking about Giants, 6-7 win team maybe 5-win team, similar to the year the Jets had, because they're just not just the team's not very good in terms of talent wise. But man, I mean, they're 6-2. You go 8-2 into that Cowboys game, you get to 9-2. I mean, wild. Should be interesting. A very entertaining season for New York football. Obviously, Jets on the bye week. They'll have New England next week in Foxborough, and then they'll head home to play Chicago. Giants have Houston, Detroit, and then Thanksgiving in Dallas against the Cowboys. All right, so now let's get to a couple good college football games on this weekend before we get to fantasy. You got a couple good ones. Obviously, the biggest one, Alabama Ole Miss is a pretty good game, despite Alabama not having a great chance at it. Still a chance, but not as good as not as good as if they would have beat LSU last week. Oregon, Wisconsin's a big one. Oregon making a strong push for the college football playoff. North Carolina, Wake Forest is a good. It's not, it doesn't impact the college football playoff, but two high-rated offenses, two very good offenses, not very good defenses. So it should be an interesting matchup there. The biggest one is obviously, TCU, Texas. Texas will be at home. This is massive. 7:30 ABC. College game day tomorrow will be live from Texas. This is a massive game. I mean, TCU, fourth-ranked team in the nation in the college football playoff poll. They've been a very good team, and they've been they've been a force this season. And another game to look out for is LSU Clemson. LSU also has a chance, or LSU Arkansas rather. LSU has a chance to be in the college football playoff. So that's another game to look out for as well. So a lot of really, really good games this weekend. All these games continue to get, better and better and better as, the weeks go on and we get closer and closer to the end of the season and closer to the, obviously, college football playoff. So should be good. As for the NHL, got 4 games on tonight. You got Capitals, Lightning, Maple Leafs, Penguins, Sharks, Stars, Wild, Kraken. And as for the NBA, as I mentioned earlier, got a good amount of games on tonight in the NBA. Celtics, Nuggets, Magic, Suns, Spurs, Bucks, Thunder, Raptors, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, Warriors, Cavs, and the Lakers, Kings. Knicks will also be back in action tonight after their really, really poor performance against the Nets and a dominant performance for Brooklyn. They'll be back tonight at MSG against the 3-9 Pistons. So we'll see if the Knicks can get back on track and get to 6-6 on the season. Kentucky also plays tonight. They'll be back at home for their second game of the season. All right, so now we get to fantasy football. So last week I'm having a really bad year in fantasy. I've lost in all 4 leagues last week. It wasn't good. But this week should be interesting. With all the injuries to quarterbacks. I shouldn't say all the injuries to quarterbacks. With Josh Allen being out, I know some people have geared away from playing Justin Herbert because of all the injuries around the Chargers. And obviously with Darren Waller also going on the IR, tight end is a big need for a lot of teams. So in a couple of my leagues, I had Darren Waller. 3 of the 4 of my leagues, actually, I had Waller. I picked up Greg Doldich. He's from the Broncos. Probably botched the last name. He's averaged 12.1 points per game this season, and specifically, he's been a lot better. He's played 3 games this year. He had 12, 11, and 12. He had a bye week last week, and obviously Broncos bye week last week, and they're coming back against Tennessee. So in the 3 games he's played, he's been very good. He's been, one of the, top targets for Russell Wilson. He's been a guy that's gotten, seen a lot of action. So he's a guy definitely to look out for at the tight end spot. You could also look for a guy like, I know some people if you're in like a 6 or 8 man league and you got 2 tight end, if you go 2 tight ends, Goddard's an option. I know not many people are gonna have Waller and Kittle or Waller and Kelsey. Most people probably won't. If you do, definitely go Goddard. I know Tyler Higbee's also out there. Another guy. Obviously, the Rams. You could also go with, Raiders backup, and I'm probably going to buy Foster Moreau. I think that's how you say his name. Probably botched his name, but he's the Raiders backup behind Waller. And with Renfrow also being out, he might get more targets because it's going to be Adams. Renfrow is out. Waller's out. Adams, and you're going to need a tight end. So Raiders backup tight end could also be an option there. Deebo Samuel's back, so you plug him definitely in that slot. I like Rondale Moore a lot more this week. He's been playing well. Rondale Moore's been putting up a good amount of points. Cardinals haven't been winning, But DeAndre Hopkins and Rondale Moore have been putting up points for the Cardinals at the receiver spot. I'm not playing Thielen this week against that Buffalo team. We'll see if Trey White's back. Buffalo's got a good defense. I know they've missing pieces in the secondary. They've still got a good defense. I'm not going to play Thielen this week. I like Rondale Moore against a Rams team that has really struggled this year. He's definitely an option out there as well, especially with Keenan Allen being out. Rondale Moore's a guy that you can definitely slot in. Same thing with Devontae Smith. I'm playing Tony Pollard again this week. He's been very good this season. He's another option as well. Flex spot. If you go 2 tight ends and you had Waller in your flex, Pollard could be an option there too, especially with Michael Carter being on a bye week for the New York Jets. I know a lot of people have had him on this slot. Pollard definitely fits in there. So should be hopefully a interesting week of fantasy football. Devontae Adams is always a must play, but especially this week. And I'm also looking at one under the radar play for all of fantasy leagues. If you got Devin Singletary, he's an under the radar play this week, a guy that could have a big week for the Bills. Because you got to realize, if Josh Allen's playing, his elbow's still banged up, you still have questions around there. How much are the Bills actually going to throw it? And if Case Keenum's playing, you know the Bills aren't going to throw it a ton. So I'm actually this week, now if you have Stephon Diggs, you play Diggs. If you have Gabe Davis, you play Davis. But I wouldn't recommend playing, if you have Dawson Knox, you might have to play him, especially if you had Waller at tight end, you have him as your backup, you might have to play Knox. But I like the Bills' running backs, specifically Devin Singletary, because I could see the Bills this week, no matter who the quarterback is, rely a lot more on the run just because of the fact that Josh Allen, if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. And, Case Keenum's Case Keenum. He's a backup quarterback. So, Devin Singletary, I could also see the Bills, short passes to Singletary, running a lot with Singletary. He's a guy under the radar player if you want to put him in that flex. I know Miles Sanders is a possible flex option. Tony Pollard. I'm not saying I'm playing him over Dalvin Cook or play him over, Austin Eckler. But Singletary could get a lot more burn this week with the questions around quarterback in Buffalo. So look out for that. So hopefully a successful week of fantasy football, which I haven't had many of them. 2-7, 4-5, 3-6, and 3-6 are the 4 leagues I'm in, below 500 in all the leagues. Although the one league I still have a chance at the playoffs, the league I'm 4-5 in. But that hasn't been a great year in fantasy. Fantasy basketball 3-0. Fantasy football has not been a very good year. So should be a good weekend of football. Looking forward to it. Obviously a lot of good college games tomorrow. Giants, Texans as well. Jets bye week. So us Jet fans will get a little bit of a rest on Sunday, not having to getting to watch all the rest of the games. Although I can't stand bye weeks as a fan, especially with the Jets playing this well. I mean, I just wish I wish we played New England this week because I want redemption against them. That was a winnable game. We gave it away. You get another opportunity next week, and they're beatable. And the Jets they got more talent than New England. The Jets are a better team. Period. End of sentence. That's just how it is. That's just the reality. You go out and beat them, you get the 7-3, you welcome in Chicago, who, although Justin Fields is playing good, they're still a beatable team. And you got to realize the Jets got a top 5 defense rather. It's going to be a fun year. I mean, if the Jets beat New England and beat Chicago, and they get to 8-3, and the Giants beat Houston and beat Detroit, and they're 9-2, I mean, going into Minnesota and going to Dallas, I mean, man, oh man, what a time to be a New York football fan. It really is such a great, great time. So enjoy your weekend full of football. A lot of good college games tomorrow. Enjoy it. Also, college basketball's back, NBA, NHL, NFL obviously on Sunday. A lot of good games this weekend. As always, I will see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.